Welcome back to another episode of Crime Scene X. Today's video will cover 3 true scary stories. Sit back and enjoy. The night had a chill to it as I made my way home from my late-night shift. The streets were deserted, and an eerie silence seemed to hang in the air. My footsteps echoed through the empty alleys, the only sound in the still night. I always took the same route home, a series of twists and turns through the city's maze-like streets. But tonight, something felt off. An unsettling feeling gnawed at me, and I quickened my pace. As I neared an underpass, I heard a soft, distant noise. I paused, straining to hear, but there was nothing. Just my imagination playing tricks, I told myself. But the nagging feeling persisted, so I continued to walk briskly, glancing over my shoulder every so often. That's when I noticed it. A black van creeping slowly behind me. Panic set in. I began to run, my breath coming in ragged gasps, my heart pounding in my chest. The van sped up and I could hear its engine roaring to life, chasing me down the dark, narrow street. I darted into an alley, hoping to lose them. But the van followed, relentless. The headlights cast long, terrifying shadows on the walls as I ran for my life. I reached into my pocket and fumbled for my phone, dialing 911 as I sprinted through the labyrinthine streets. The operator's calm voice was a stark contrast to the terror I felt. "What's your emergency?" "Someone's chasing me. I think they're trying to kidnap me. Please hurry," I cried, tears streaming down my face. I could hear the operator typing, asking for my location, but my mind was a blur. I kept running, the van still in pursuit, its occupants hidden in the shadows. I spotted a construction site up ahead, and without thinking, I scrambled over the fence, my hands raw and bleeding as I clung to the cold metal. The van screeched to a halt outside the fence, its doors slamming shut. I hid behind a pile of debris, my heart in my throat, watching as 2 dark figures emerged from the van. They were talking in hushed tones, scanning the area. "They must have gone in here," one of them growled. "Find them," the other ordered. I could hear sirens in the distance growing closer, but the fear was paralyzing. I stayed hidden, praying that they wouldn't find me. Minutes felt like hours as I listened to their footsteps, moving closer and then farther away. Finally, the sirens were upon us, and I heard the men cursing as they scrambled back to the van. The police arrived just in time, arresting the men and taking my statement. I was safe, but the terror of that night will never leave me. I later learned that the men were part of a kidnapping ring, and I had narrowly escaped a fate too horrible to imagine. I'm grateful to be alive, but the memories haunt me. Every shadow, every sound sends chills down my spine. I'll never walk those streets alone again, knowing how close I came to losing everything. The world is full of real horrors, ones that hide in plain sight, and sometimes they come terrifyingly close to finding you. The accident was sudden, and the world around me twisted into darkness. When I awoke, I found myself trapped in a nightmare. My body lay motionless, a prisoner of its own betrayal, while my mind remained fully aware, conscious of everything happening around me. The doctors called it locked-in syndrome, a rare neurological disorder where the patient is awake and conscious, but unable to move or communicate. To the outside world, I was in a coma, but inside, I was screaming, desperate to reach out to my loved ones. My wife Sarah visited me every day, her hand gently caressing mine, tears in her eyes. "Please wake up," she'd whisper, her voice breaking. I could feel her warmth, her love, but I couldn't respond, couldn't let her know I was there. Our children would come too, their innocent faces twisted in confusion. "Why doesn't Daddy wake up, Mommy?" they would ask, and my heart would shatter, powerless to comfort them. The days turned into weeks, then months. The doctors tried everything, probing my mind with tests and treatments, but my body refused to cooperate. Friends and family would come and go, their voices a soothing melody that kept me company in my silent world. I became a spectator to my own life, watching as the world moved on without me. I listened to the doctors discuss my case, their words clinical and detached. "No improvement," they'd say. The horror of my situation gnawed at me, a constant reminder of what I had become. I wanted to scream, to cry, to lash out, but I was trapped, a prisoner of my own mind. Time lost its meaning, and I drifted in my thoughts, replaying memories, cherishing the sounds and sensations that once were. My family's voices became my lifeline, their visits a brief respite from the terrifying silence. Then, one day something changed. Sarah was at my bedside, her voice soft and soothing as she read to me from our favorite book. I focused on her voice, letting it pull me from the darkness. And then, ever so slightly, I felt something, a twitch in my finger. It was almost imperceptible, but it was there, a spark of life in my lifeless body. I focused all my energy on that finger, willing it to move again. Days passed and the effort consumed me, a beacon of hope in my endless nightmare. Slowly, painstakingly, I regained control, first a finger, then a hand, a small triumph in my battle with my own body. The road to recovery was long and arduous, filled with setbacks and frustrations, but I clung to the hope that small movement had given me. With the support of my family and an unbreakable will, I eventually emerged from my coma, a survivor of a horror most could never imagine. My life has changed forever, but I'm grateful for every breath, every touch, every moment with my loved ones. I know now that the real terrors are not always those that lurk in shadows or hidden corners, but those that hide within our own minds and bodies, waiting to strike when we least expect it. And yet, even in the darkest of places, hope can still be found. You just have to be willing to fight for it. From the moment I moved into the old house, something didn't feel right. At first, I attributed it to the creaks and groans of an old building, but soon I started to hear something else. Faint shuffling, whispers, and occasional soft laughter. I lived alone and had chosen the place because of its isolation, its character. It was a fixer-upper, to say the least. The real estate agent had told me about the previous owner's sudden departure, but I wasn't one to be scared off by an old house's quirks. The noises, though, were getting to me. At first, they'd come only at night, keeping me awake, prickling at the back of my mind. Friends told me it was just the house settling or maybe some pests. But these noises were different. They seemed intentional. I decided to investigate. Every night I would wander through the house, following the soft sounds that teased my ears. More than once, I thought I'd seen something out of the corner of my eye, a fleeting shadow, a hint of movement. Weeks turned into months, and my obsession with the sounds grew. I was losing sleep, my work was suffering, and my friends were growing concerned. But I couldn't let it go. Something was in my house. One night the noises grew louder, more distinct. A soft humming like a lullaby filled the air. I followed it, heart pounding, to a wall in the basement. I pressed my ear to the cold surface and listened. There it was, clear as day. Someone was inside my walls. I stumbled back in horror, realization dawning on me. All this time I hadn't been alone. I called the police, frantic and terrified. They arrived quickly, skeptical but concerned. Together we found a hidden door in the basement wall, leading to a small room filled with photographs, trinkets from the house, and a makeshift bed. Someone had been living there, watching me, sharing my home. The police searched the house and the surrounding area, but the person was gone, vanished without a trace. They took the evidence and promised to investigate, but I knew they didn't understand. They couldn't feel what I felt. I left that house and never went back. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, of knowing that someone had been so close, hidden just out of sight. The police never found the person who had lived in my walls. They told me it was likely a homeless person seeking shelter. I still hear the noises sometimes, in the dead of night, when I'm all alone. The soft humming, the whispers, the laughter. I know it's my mind playing tricks on me, but I can't shake the terror that once gripped me. I'll never forget the feeling of discovering that I wasn't alone, of realizing that the walls that were meant to protect me were harboring something far more sinister.